Anything that you, I don't know, regret not being a part of in your activist days, or
Not really.
looking back?
Not really, because I was the kind of activist that did what I thought was right.
Mm-hmm.
May not sit well with everybody, but for me, it sat well. And I thought I'd done whatever was put on my mind to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I did it. Ever since I presented Mrs. Roosevelt the flowers at 10, was not supposed to say anything, but hand her the flowers, and I decided, no, I'll make a speech. I did. Then I thanked her for being so nice to colored people, and she loved it. And that was my first time going to the White House. I went 3 times under the Roosevelts. But what I'm trying to say, I kept saying to myself, well, why all these presidents have asked me to come and do something special for them? And particularly when President Kennedy had asked us to go into Mississippi.
Right.
And then he got assassinated before we could go. And then that's why I said I admire President Johnson. He called me and said, Ms. Savage, would you still be interested in going to Mississippi? I'm trying to carry out the mission and the agenda that Kennedy left. And I see it's on the agenda. And I said, well, it depends on whether Mrs. Minor will still go with me or not. And that was Governor Minor's wife at the time. And she agreed that we would go. Then it was a horrible situation. We could have gotten killed or murdered.
Right.
Because it was very dangerous at the time that we went in there. And we got back and we reported to him what we found. Our purpose was to get the first grades integrated without an incident.
Mm-hmm.
And the society women in Jackson had a tea, afternoon tea. And Mrs. Minor and I, of course, was their guests. And they all wore gloves. I had some too, I didn't have them on. And they were shaking hands. And so I said, well, they're going to keep these gloves on to eat these cookies? And I guess they were thinking, oh no, she may want to shake my hand again or something. I don't know what it was. But it was a very interesting afternoon. So they asked Mrs. Minor, are you the spokesman? She said, oh no, I'm not the spokesman. Mrs. Savage is the spokesman. And so I talked and I said, the purpose of being here today is to ask you to do not me, but the President of the United States a favor. These are little children going in first grade. Now, ask yourself the question, would you like to see your little one traumatized with all the riot gear and all the white hoods and things? I said, just ask yourself the question. I said, but as women, you have the power to do anything you want to do, come night. Why I use that word, I don't know, but I did. And so they got very silent. So finally, the hostess, after I'd finished, spoke up and said, well, you know, I sort of agree with Mrs. Savage. And I was shocked she called me Mrs. Savage, but she did. And said, I think that we need to really give this some serious attention. And it worked.